welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is going to be my Championship Week 21 score predictions. So going on this weekend in the Championship, guys, we once again have a full fixture list to go ahead and predict this weekend. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this one, actually. We have some belting games going up this weekend, which I'm looking forward to predicting some. So guys, if you've not seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every weekend, I give you guys my Championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the Championship. FIFA 18 also makes their score predictions, but what I'm of course interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below, I will leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and then you guys can easily go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, I will include your comment at the start of the next video, guys. So I am really looking forward to getting into this one, as like I said, we've got some pretty massive games going up this weekend. And if you do go on to enjoy the video, guys, make sure you do leave a like, and as well as that, make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, let's jump into some of these games. So our first game to go ahead and predict, guys, is the game going on tonight on Friday night. That is the game taking place between Derby County and Bristol City, of course. Two promotion chasers this season. However, both of them do find themselves in a different run of form at the moment, of course. Derby County currently set second in the Championship, putting in some great displays lately and on a really good unbeaten run at the moment. Contrasting, though, to Bristol City at the moment, who are still sat 5th in the Championship. However, they have now lost their last 3 games in the league, and I believe they've lost their last 5 in all competitions. So overall for Bristol City, not on the best run of form at this point in time, and I'd be interested to see how both of these two sides actually go ahead and approach this game. So far this season, probably two of the best sides to go ahead and watch, you know, both of them capable of scoring goals. And I'd also be interested to see if Cameron Jerome plays any part in this for Derby County, of course, being their new signing. I think that's a good signing for Derby, really. I think his hold-up play up front will just benefit even more the players he's got in behind him, the likes of Vidra, Tom Lawrence, Johnny Russell, and Vyman, and a couple of others. I think that could be really beneficial. And overall, I've got to fancy Derby for the victory. After how good they looked and clinical they looked at Birmingham last week, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 home victory for Derby County, whereas FIFA's saying this one will be 1-0 Bristol City. Now, next game sees Aston Villa go up against Barnsley, and to be honest, I don't think this is the easiest game to go ahead and predict. Barnsley are now unbeaten in their last 4 games, and if you do cast your mind back to last week, they had that really good display actually against Wolves, where they managed to grind out the 0-0 draw in the end. And we have seen Barnsley do that with a couple of other sides at the top of the table so far this season. So if they do implement a similar game plan, Aston Villa could struggle to break them down. However, we are looking at Aston Villa's recent form, they've won their last 3 games, and the man at the moment is Robert Snodgrass. Some of the deliveries he's putting into the box at the moment are absolutely outrageous, and he's going to have to be on his top game to go ahead and break down this Barnsley defence, who have looked very resilient lately. I think that's fair to say. But for this one, I'm just going to fancy Villa to go ahead and do this one. I'm going to back Villa for a slim 1-0 home victory over Barnsley, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. The next game sees Bolton Wanderers go up against Ipswich Town, and one which I think this one could be a bit of a one on a knife edge, to be honest. I could definitely see this game going both ways, really. Ipswich, of course, got a victory in their last game week to put an end to what was a pretty miserable run of form before that, thanks to Besant Selena, who scored a worldie against Leeds to beat them by 1-0. And in that Ipswich squad, I think they are lacking a little bit of cohesion. You know, individually they have got players who can change a game, like Besant Selena did in his last game week. They're coming up against this Bolton side, who on the whole are a pretty organised unit, so Ipswich are going to have to do a job on them to go ahead and break them down. I have the feeling that the goals in this one are probably likely to come from set pieces, considering how many both of them have scored so far this season. Of course, Bolton they weren't the best in their last game week. However, I have that feeling that they will step up and normal service will be resumed in this one. So for this game, I'm going to go for a 2-1 home victory for Bolton. You get that impression with Ipswich, where they managed manage to claw the ground back on the top 6, and when they get in touching distance, they seem to fall away again. So for this one, I'm going to back a 2-1 home victory for Bolton. Whereas FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Ipswich. The next game does see Fulham go up against Burton Albion, and at the moment Fulham are definitely one of the form sides in the Championship. Somehow they managed to regain loads of ground on the top 6 and are now just a touching distance outside of the playoffs. And I credit for Fulham for going ahead and doing that. In their last game, they weren't the best really. They managed to get that victory, of course, against Middlesbrough, but in terms of the performance, probably was one of their weaker ones of the season so far. But nevertheless, if their attacking talent is on song for this one, they really could cause this Burton side some problems, you know. I get the impression that for this one, Burton will probably be sitting quite deep and looking to grab a goal on the counter-attack, and they probably will frustrate Fulham for large majorities of this game. But even so, I do fancy Fulham to go ahead and come through this one, and I'm going to back them to go ahead and get the 3-1 home victory, whereas FIFA saying this one will be 1-0 Fulham. Our next game then sees Leeds United go up against Millwall, and of course with Sai still being suspended for Leeds United, they have lost quite a bit of creativity going forward. You know, we saw that in their last game against Ipswich, where they weren't firing on all cylinders going forward really, and of course they did in the end lose that game. Coming up against Millwall, who on the whole, they're a hard side to break down, so with Leeds lacking sight in this one, I can't see too many goals actually going ahead and being scored in this game here today. Maybe from a set piece or something like that, but from open play, I get the impression that both defences will be quite resilient in this one, and so for that reason, I get the impression this one could be going towards a goalless draw. So for this one, I'm going to predict it to finish as a 0-0, whereas FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Millwall. Our next game then sees Norwich go up against Sheffield United. I'd love to know some Norwich fans' opinions on what do you make of the game the other night against Chelsea. Of course, Norwich managed to take Chelsea to penalties, but unfortunately for them, they did go ahead and lose out on them. Now, that could have some implications on this game actually, as I was quite surprised because Daniel Farke was really going for that game against Chelsea. You know, he put out a full strength side for that FA Cup replay, and that could see this Norwich squad being a little bit jaded for this one, and Sheffield United could then take advantage of that, of course. Earlier in the season, Sheffield United seemed to have a bit of a meltdown when they were playing Norwich at home last season, but for this one, I feel like they may get one over on them with that Norwich squad being less fresh than they were, and with Sheffield United wanting to get back to winning ways after that Derby Day draw last time out. So I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-1 away victory for Sheffield United, whereas FIFA saying this one will be 1-0 Norwich. Our next game then sees my club Preston North End go up against Birmingham, and at this point in time really, Birmingham just need to be picking up points wherever is possible. Coming up against my Preston North End side, I don't think it'll be a rollover game. You know, so far this season we've seen Birmingham really roll over teams and they've got absolutely battered, but I don't see that completely happening in this one really. So far this season, Preston do have a tendency to struggle to break down some teams who do sit quite deep, and I get the impression that that's how Birmingham will probably play in this one and look to play on the counter-attack. So hopefully our attacking players are on form for this one, and I hope to see Louis Malt go ahead and play his first game for Preston at the weekend if he is back fit for this one. So for this game, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 home victory for Preston, although knowing us will probably go ahead and throw this one away, but I am going to say 2-0 Preston, and FIFA's going to back a 1-1 draw. Then the next game then sees QPR go up against Middlesbrough, and they're quite an interesting game actually. Middlesbrough have been under a pretty decent run of form since Tony Pulis has come in. You know, there has been some positive signs there, of course. They did lose their last game against Fulham. I'm still not sure how really. They bottled a lot of chances in that one, especially Rudy Gestede, who had a ridiculous amount of chances, but somehow they didn't get anything from that game. Coming up against this QPR side, who themselves actually have been in a very nice run of form recently. Won their last 2 games in the Championship, and so far this season, at home especially, they have been a bit of a force to take down some of the sides at the top of the Championship. And so for this game, I get the impression this one could be heading towards a draw as well. Both sides have firepower in their squads and a relatively sturdy defence. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and back it to finish as a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Middlesbrough. We then see Reading go up against Brentford, and at this point in time, Brentford only find themselves 3 points outside the playoffs, so that still being a real possibility for them for the rest of the season. Going up against this Reading side who currently find themselves in a really wretched run of form. You know, there doesn't really seem to be too many signs from their latest games in the Championship that they're going to go ahead and turn a corner, of course. They did get a good result in that FA Cup replay the other day. John Daddy Bodvarsson, I think, picking up a hat-trick for them. But nevertheless, their league form is not anything to shout about, really. And especially considering Brentford, with some of the firepower they have going forward, I think there'll be too much for this Reading side in this one. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 away victory for Brentford, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. Our next game then features Sunderland going up against Hull City, and the mad thing about this is both of these sides are currently scrapping it out at the bottom of the Championship, when last season this would have been a Premier League game. So that just goes to show how quickly times can change in football. But for this one, I mean, the sensible thing for this one would probably to be backing a low-scoring draw, really. But I get the impression that one side has to snatch it in this one, you know. A draw for either side just isn't good enough. They both have to be going for this one, and for that reason, I get the impression it will be an incredibly cagey game with chances probably few and far between. The most chances we're probably going to see in this one will most likely come from set pieces, and I just get a gut feeling that Sunderland may go ahead and nick this one by 1-0. So I'll say 1-0 Sunderland, and FIFA's going to agree with me. Our next game then sees Wolves go up against Nottingham Forest, and of course Wolves in their last game dropping points against Barnsley, which saw the gap at the top of the Championship cut down to 10 points. I mean, it's still too big for anyone to catch, let's be real about that, but nevertheless, maybe we'll see a bit of drama go on at the top of the Championship if Wolves do drop a couple more points. And coming up against Aita Karanka's Nottingham Forest side, for this game I get the impression that Karanka will probably look to stabilise that Forest defence. You know, against Aston Villa, they looked alright at the back. You know, they did, of course, lose that game eventually, but they didn't look awful at the back, although they would have been disappointed with them going forward and their efforts going forward. Wolves, they're a hard team to predict, really, because when their attacking trio is on song, I mean, we could be looking at an absolute goal fest in this one, but I don't think that'll be the case in this one. You know, they looked a little bit frustrated against Barnsley, but nevertheless, I do fancy them in this one to go ahead and get back to winning ways. So for that reason, I will back a 2-1 home victory for Wolves, whereas FIFA's saying in this one, it'll be 1-0 Forest. And then our last game to go ahead and predict is the evening kickoff on Saturday. That sees Sheffield Wednesday go up against Cardiff City, and of course Sheffield Wednesday in their last game getting a 0-0 draw in the Steel City derby, and considering they had a man sent off for that one, probably was a pretty positive result. Of course, their squad is still absolutely butchered with injuries, so the new manager's doing well to go ahead and reassemble their squad for this one. Coming up against Cardiff, who before last week were in an awful run of form themselves, but of course they got back to winning ways with a convincing 4-0 win over Sunderland. But for that game, you know, Sunderland's defence was just so passive, and under Sheffield Wednesday's new manager, the first thing that he looks to be implementing is for them to get that defensive stability back within the club. And so for that reason, I can't see all too many goals being scored in this game here today, and I actually fancy him to go ahead and pick up another draw with Wednesday. So for this game, I'm going to go ahead and predict it to finish as a 1-1 draw. I get the impression that either side could snatch this one, but in the end, I think it is heading towards a draw. FIFA 18 is saying it'll be 1-0 Wednesday. So guys, there you have it. That will wrap it up for my Championship Week 21 score predictions. So do you guys agree with my predictions? Let me know in the comments down below. But apart from that, guys, I will now wrap it up for this video. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you do check out all the other links in the description down below. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.